Hello and welcome back to the Mum's Taxi App Challenge. Now, this is lesson 9 and I think it's the second last lesson. That's what I planned, but sometimes it doesn't go according to plan. Now, today we're going to add some background functionality to our app, some background coding. What we've done so far is all the code just set up the user interface of our app, meaning the look of our app. But currently that app is not functional at all. So we're going to add some code, and that code is going to tell our app what to do in certain circumstances. Now let me show you what that means. Now before we actually get into today's lesson, there's a little bug that I need to fix in our code that I just found. Now, when you go to the style sheet, style.css, under .labels, you see this padding top for REM. I need you to select it and delete everything in that line until there's no line left, and then hit save. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's go and look at our code. Now, this is the finished app, right? Now, in the finished app, in the final product, we type in, obviously, some amounts. How much is it a month? Let's say 100 rands a month. And how many days is the transport going to go for? That's 10 days. And once we have that, then we simply hit the go button and it outputs the value, how much it will cost for 10 days if the cost is 100 rands per month. But if you look at what we've currently got now, I know there's a spacing issue. We'll fix that up shortly. But I just want to demonstrate this part here. So if we type in 100 days, so it allows us to type in as normal. But when we hit go, nothing happens. It simply blanks everything out and there's no output. Now, the reason that's happening is because we didn't put in any code for this, for any functionality. So the app doesn't really know what to do when the go button is pressed. All it does is that it refreshes the page, and that's why all the numbers disappear. So whatever numbers you have in here, the moment you hit go, the standard default behavior is for the page to reload and everything to disappear. So that's why the text fields get blanked. So there's two things we're essentially going to need to do. One is to override that default behavior. So we do not want the app to blank out our page when we hit go. So that's the first thing we're going to need to do. And the second thing we're going to need to do is to type in the code for what happens, or what calculation is done rather, in the back end to give us the value that we need in the output. So let's jump to that next. So we're going to go to index.html. So we'll go to just below the closed div of container. Now, how do you know it's the closed div of container? You click on the open div and you can see the closed div gets highlighted. And that's a trick you can use when you're coding. Now, let's take a look at this form tag. How do we know where's the closed form tag? By clicking on the open tag, we see the closed form tag gets highlighted. Same with the body tag. Now, sometimes your divs can get really big and it's difficult to see where it starts and where it ends, and that's where an application like brackets actually helps you. Okay, so let's go into just below that div. I'm going to leave a few lines here so it becomes clear, and then I'm going to put in a script tag. Okay, and when you hit the close angle bracket, then automatically the close script tag appears. And then I'm going to leave a few lines. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to type in this document dot get element by ID. See, brackets is already making a suggestion there. So get element by ID, and we type in there the word go. Okay, before we move ahead, I want you to look at this. Get element by ID, go. So what this line is basically saying is that we need to find an element that has the ID of go. And if you remember, the element on our screen, now all of these things are known as elements. Your labels, your inputs, your forms, your buttons. These are all known as elements in your page. So there is an element that has an ID of Go, and that element is this button. So button ID is equal to Go. So we're saying document, please get the element with the ID of Go. And then what we're going to do to that guy is we're going to add what is known as an event listener. Now, what is an event listener? You know how you listen out for the news or you look out for the news? Well, it's just like that. So the event listener basically listens to any events that are taking place on this page. And what is the event we're looking for? We're looking for the event that when the user clicks this button. So when the user clicks the button, let's look at the front end. When the user clicks this button, Go, then that is an event. And that event is known as the on-click event. So on-click, meaning when the user clicks this button, do something. So that's what we're going to program in here. So add event listener, and we're going to type in here the word click. And then what happens when that click event happens? So when our script notices that the button is clicked, then something must happen. And what is that? Calculate amount. Simple, right? It's almost like writing in plain English. So when this element with the ID Go is clicked, then our script, our code needs to calculate the amount. And then we end this line with a semicolon. Now the trouble is, this instruction, calculate amount, is not known to our script. Our script doesn't really know what that means. So we're going to have to teach it exactly what it means to calculate the amount, which amounts, and what calculation do you do on those amounts. Now, to do that, we create what is known as a function, and we'll call this function calculate amount. And we put in open and close round brackets and open and close curly braces. And then we go inside the curly braces and we leave a couple of lines. Now, we're going to stop here because we're running out of time. But in this function, I think you can guess right now, we are going to be telling our script, we're going to be telling our code what to do inside here. So when somebody says to our code, calculate amount, we are actually teaching our code what to do. What amounts are you going to calculate, and what calculation are you going to do on those amounts? But we'll leave that for the next lesson. I'll catch you then.